Everybody's backpedaling now on Kyrie Irving. Now that Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks are one win away from qualifying for the NBA Finals, everyone now has turned into a huge Kyrie Irving fan. This played out last night on Inside the NBA on TNT, where they started rewriting the narrative on Kyrie Irving. Now that he's one win away from making the NBA Finals, he's no longer the villain who wouldn't take the vaccine. He's no longer the anti-Semite who retweeted a movie poster. That's interesting. And it's another example of if you're standing on truth, you have to do far less backpedaling than these talking heads on TV. You guys know I am a fan and consider myself a friend of Charles Barkley. I don't have a personal problem with Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, Kenny Smith, Stephen A. Smith, any of these people. I really don't have a personal problem. What I've been trying to point out to you, though, is these guys are all controlled because they're not standing on firm truth. I'm going to use Kyrie Irving and the backpedaling we're seeing going on with Kyrie Irving as another example of why standing on truth, biblical truth, allows you to be a real man in a culture and in a time where real men are emasculating themselves. It's going to be a very interesting episode of Fearless just around the corner. Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Wednesday. Thank you for joining me. Awesome show planned for you today. Steve Kim's going to join us a little bit after my fire starter. Josh Mancuso, a comedian, someone with a big brand in the college football world. He's going to join us on today's show. We're going to talk a little college football, little comedy with Josh Mancuso. He's been doing some funny stuff alongside Cooper Manning and Kirk Herbstreit. I'll explain a little later. Shamika Michelle's going to join us. No Shamika Michelle. No Shamika Michelle today. Bobby and Anthony, Bobby Harrington and Anthony Walker will be here for some Tennessee harmony. We'll talk a little bit about, they've got a podcast and a book out about what the Bible says about end times. The other topic we'll get into today with Steve Kim is this whole Negro League's baseball deal and how they're incorporating Negro League's baseball stats into the Major League stats. And so now Josh Gibson is the batting champion over Ty Cobb. We'll get into that with Steve Kim. But we'll start with me talking about Kyrie Irving and all the backpedaling that's going on. I'll also tell you, almost forgot, check out Extra Fearless. That's content on Blaze TV. You can go to blazetv.com/fearless. Use my promo code Fearless, and you can save $20 on your yearly subscription. Today, we'll have a piece of content, I hope, out about Robert De Niro. He's at the Trump trial for some reason. The guy that I loved in Godfather 2, the guy that people love in Goodfellas, one of the greatest actors, one of the greatest tough guys. He's not tough in real life. We'll tap into Steve Kim's movie knowledge to talk a little bit about Robert De Niro and what he's doing at the Trump trial. But you got to be a Blaze TV subscriber to get that content. That will be on Extra Fearless behind the paywall for those you hardcore people that really support what we're doing, that are Blaze TV subscribers. Today's episode, though, is brought to you, this free episode right here on YouTube. It's brought to you because our good friends at Good Ranchers support what we do. Use my promo code Fearless at goodranchers.com, and with your subscription, you can claim free bacon for life and support veterans this Father's Day. So without further ado, let me get into today and what I found interesting watching the NBA playoffs last night when I was not watching Caitlin Clark lose a another basketball game. I'm sorry, guys. I still got Caitlin derangement syndrome. But I did check out some of the Minnesota Timberwolves' victory over the Dallas Mavericks, and I found it interesting. We'll start with this SOT 1, the TNT crew, and Kyrie Irving, no, not Kyrie Irving, Kenny Smith, directing a conversation about Kyrie Irving and scapegoating Stephen A. Smith. I thought this was a little bit unfair. I'm going to have to actually defend Stephen A. Smith slightly, just for a moment. Let's play the clip.
Well, I'm just excited, as you started off, that we're talking about him. And there's been like a constant change in the thought process about him by the mass media. As a basketball player, you know, we're not talking about his political or social stances and looking at him in a negative view. And I'll say it. I wasn't going to say it, but, you know, I've never said it to Kyrie, but I've said it to Stephen A. Because at one time, Stephen A. was an advocate about having a battle with this guy. And I had to call Stephen. I'm like, this guy's from our neighborhood. I named like 6 people. And I said, Stephen, those people mentored you. They mentored him. So when you say something about him, you're actually saying it about us. And so he understood, and they kind of fell back. And because as a media person, we have to understand that young men go through young things. They grow up, they learn things, and they appreciate things, and they have a different viewpoint than we might have had. But as a basketball player, you gotta double this guy. And if you don't double this guy, you go home in 4. And that's the difference between this Kyrie, and I love to see.
Who's in the building, Kenny?
Superman is in the building when he has the ball over there.
Yeah, all that stuff is good. He self-inflicted himself. He got to take some responsibility. I think he's grown up. I think he's matured. Stephen A. and other people criticized him, and he rightly deserved it. You can't go out there being anti-Semitic, and you can do the vaccine thing. That's your own thing. But he deserved the criticism he got. He deserved the suspension he got. But as a basketball player, I think he's really grown up. I thought after game 1, that was a grown man in full flight. I'd never seen him that happy. We all made mistakes. I've done plenty of stupid things, but at some point you have to grow up. And I think he's grown.
See, here's my point. I don't think Kenny Smith needs to grow up. I mean, I don't think Kyrie Irving needs to grow up. I think the people talking about Kyrie Irving need to grow up. They need to change, not Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving averaging 22 points, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds, and the team being on the brink of the NBA Finals. And now everybody's like, well, Kyrie's just grown up. He's this, he's that. And no, Kyrie hasn't changed. He's always been a great basketball player. That's never been questioned by anybody that knows what they're watching. Kyrie Irving has also always had a pair, right or wrong. When the man made the decision to leave Cleveland out from under LeBron James's wing because he wanted to do his own thing, whether you agreed with it, disagreed with it, whether it was the right decision or wrong decision, that was a man that was like, you know what, I'm going to define myself as a basketball player. I'm going to strike out on my own. I'm going to come out from underneath LeBron James's wing and do my own thing. You don't have to agree with it, but you got to respect the man for saying, I'm going to carve my own path. I'm going to blaze my own trail. I'm not going to be second fiddle to LeBron James. You don't have to like it. But Kyrie Irving hasn't changed. He's always had a pair. And so when he stood up against the vaccine and refused to take it, smartly, courageously, bravely, like a real man, dealing with the consequences when he was in Brooklyn and costing himself millions of dollars and receiving a lot of scorn from Barkley, Mike Wilbon, Stephen A. Smith, and everybody else in the mainstream media. He withstood that, standing on his own 2 feet. Kyrie Irving hasn't changed. This is who he is. And then when he got in hot water about retweeting a movie poster, Hebrews to Negroes. That was Kyrie Irving being himself, sharing this Hebrews to Negroes movie poster and dealing with the consequences of doing that. He eventually backpedaled a little bit and apologized to appease all the people yelling and screaming. But this is who Kyrie Irving hasn't changed. The same reason he didn't take the vaccine, the same reason he retweeted a movie poster of a movie he found interesting that Jewish people didn't like, but he found interesting because of his beliefs. Kyrie Irving hasn't changed. And now we want to do this recreated history. Well, now he's all grown up and now we can like him. No, the people that need to grow up are the people taking those $1 million checks on ESPN and TNT and doing so at the behest of the NBA, who told them, who let them know, hey, you got to take a dump on Kyrie Irving. Jewish people are upset about that movie poster, and we're pushing the vaccine, and he won't hop on board with it. If these people talking about Kyrie Irving had the same pair of balls that Kyrie Irving has, if they were as authentic as Kyrie Irving, they would be backpedaling and they would be talking about how wrong they were. They wouldn't be talking about, well, Kyrie's grown up now. Oh, Kyrie's changed. Now he's a happy person. Now he's this, now he's that. No, we need to be talking about you. Why did you criticize him in the first place? And let me refresh everybody's memories. We'll start with Barkley, SOT 12, Barkley on Kyrie and the vaccine. This is about a 1-minute clip. Take a listen.
Your buddy over here is grimacing. Chuck?
First of all, you don't get the vaccine for yourself. You get it for other people.
No, I'm not saying.
Hold on, brother. You said your piece.
No, I didn't say you do.
I got vaccinated. I can't wait to get the booster. You don't get vaccinated just for yourself. Like Adam said, you get vaccinated for your family first. You get vaccinated for your teammates second, things like that. That's what bothers me about this whole thing. I think everybody should get vaccinated. And let me tell you something. I really am proud of the Nets for putting their foot down, for saying, no, we're not going to deal with this half on, half off. The only thing that bugged me, he's still going to make $17 million sitting at home. I wish they could find a way, if he wants to go on this thing, like, people say he's like Ali. First of all, don't ever compare anybody to Ali. Ali went 3 years without boxing. He was the highest paid athlete in the world. This guy going to make $17 million for sitting at home. But to every person out there, you don't get vaccinated just for yourself. Let's get that out the way.
No, you get vaccinated because you're a puppet and you believe the government. And you don't understand who actually is the authority in the United States and who is the authority over everything on this planet. The authority is God over this planet, and the authority in America should be the actual people, not the government. I want to stress, I'm forced into doing this. I like Charles Barkley. I think he's a good-natured person. I think that he wants to do the right thing. I like Charles Barkley, but I have no choice but to be honest here. If someone should be backpedaling and rearranging or disavowing their previous thoughts, how crazy does Barkley sound in 2024 with these comments he made 2 and 3 years ago about Kyrie Irving and the vaccine? And to not have the self-awareness to say, you know what, I was wrong. I got the vaccine because I believe this tyrannical, evil government. And governments are, I'm not talking about the American government, I'm just talking about government in general is evil and tyrannical. That's why conservatives believe in limited, small government. These are fundamental facts. And again, this is when you're standing on truth. It's easy. when you're standing on biblical truth, it's just easy to know where to land and what to say, so you have to do a lot less backpedaling. And I'm not pointing at myself, because there's a lot of people that refuse to take the vaccine. But I just want to say, as an overweight person in their 50s who refused to take the vaccine, because I was standing on truth, I don't have to backpedal. And I told y'all last week, this week, everything that I say is connected to roll call and why roll call is important, why men tapping into a biblical truth, fellowshipping with other men who tap into biblical truth and encourage each other to stand on biblical truth. It's important. You can avoid these mistakes, these just obvious mistakes. People should have kept their mouths shut. Basketball players and NBA broadcasters should have kept their mouths shut about the vaccine. They're not experts. How are you talking about things you don't know anything about? It's irresponsible. And so when I called Stephen A. Smith out for taping some deal on ESPN, a 5-6 minute rant scolding black people for not taking the vaccine. Like, what are you doing? You are a bad sports writer. You run your mouth on TV about basketball and football, and now you're on TV scolding people about taking the vaccine, and you're ripping Kyrie Irving? This is insanity. So I want to play you. This is Jay Williams and Stephen A. Smith, SOT 6. This is about 90 seconds worth of Jay Williams trying to talk some sense into Stephen A. Smith as it relates to Kyrie Irving and the vaccine. Play the clip.
If you're angry about the situation, but it feels like you always flip it back to Kyrie.
Well, listen, it's two things. I've done both. The same guy that's going at Kyrie is the same guy that says the mandate should be lifted.
But you can't blame Kyrie if you see what the situation is for the situation.
Oh, I most certainly can, because what did we say? Must I rewind the clock and remind you what we argued about? This is where you and I are diametrically opposed, so let's remind our audience of where we stand. I am of the position that because you got cats to go to Brooklyn, that because the league mandate is what it is, and because 99% of the league ultimately made the sacrifice because they got a job to do, you should have done it too. You disagree. You talk about putting self in your body and all of this other stuff, and I respect that, but I disagree, because my hope, listen, bottom line is this. I didn't necessarily want to take the vaccine, but I was going to because I knew it was the right thing to do, specifically because my employer says, listen, you got to work. You got a team to look out for. This is what our conditions are. I'm looking at millions upon millions of people across the country. This is what the mandate is. I'm looking at the NBA. A lot of your teammates did not want to take the vaccine, but they did it. You are holding out. Fine. But in the process of holding out, just understand, you could potentially cost your team a championship, because with Kyrie on the floor, with KD, they are that lethal. They can beat anybody.
Stephen A. is arguing you should be a sheep. Don't you see these other sheep jumping off this building? You owe it to them to follow them jumping off that building. I'm not trying to beat up on these people. Yes, I'm not a fan of Stephen A. Smith. I think his whole narrative is fraudulent. I've proven that. We've talked about it. He won't answer any of that. But again, there's no personal animus here. What these guys are doing for a paycheck, it's dangerous. It's misleading. People love to talk about misinformation and disinformation. You've got a Hall of Fame basketball player and a planted, phony journalist, sports writer, telling people what to put into their body. This is insanity. And it wouldn't happen if they were connected to a biblical truth. This is what this show is about. It's common sense. You can call me some religious holy roller. I'm giving you the facts and the evidence that these truths are self-evident. and they will keep you in line and keep you connected to reality and to the right decision making. It's not me. I'm not smart. But I am willing to follow obvious truths. I am willing. Again, Barkley has passed himself off as some kind of Republican conservative. Republican conservatives believe in limited government. People that understand that our rights come from God, not the government, believe in limited government. People connected to a biblical truth that believe our rights come from God, not the government. They're very suspicious when the government, no matter whether Trump is president or Biden is president, when they start telling you, you have to inject this into your body, your suspicion should go off. And you should be like, let me stay out of this at the very least. I'm not going to go on TV and browbeat people into taking a vaccine that I know nothing about. But we're having a conversation now because Kyrie's hit some buckets and he's one game from the NBA Finals, and now Kyrie's all grown up and people are deflecting and dodging away. When are you going to grow up? When are you going to stand up and say, hey, look, I know y'all paying me well, but I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm going to talk basketball. I'm not going to shred this man over a vaccine that I don't know anything about. I don't have to do this kind of backpedaling. It's not because I'm smarter than these guys. I've just connected myself to a higher authority and a higher level of truth. Maybe I will make mistakes, but it certainly won't be me standing around telling people, hey, the government says inject this into your body and I'm endorsing it. It's not my lane. I'll stay out of it. Just like when Kyrie tweeted out the movie poster for Hebrews to Negroes that Jewish people didn't like. Despite Jewish people's dislike of it, I sat and said, hey, look, man, this is America. This man gets to tweet out whatever movie poster he wants. He gets to believe whatever he wants to believe. He's done nothing wrong here. Miss me with all the anti-Semitic charges. And I get to say that. I get to suffer the consequences. You can go look at my Wikipedia page and see what the people that don't like me, they're painting me as anti-Semitic because I say, hey, Kyrie gets to say this. He gets to tweet this out. This is America. Kanye West, he gets to say what Dave Chappelle, they get to say whatever they want. It doesn't have to be pre-approved or approved by a certain group. And for me saying that, like freedom of speech, First Amendment, our rights are endowed us through our Creator, I'm anti-Semitic. So was Kyrie. Let's play SOT 15, Shaq and Barkley beating up Kyrie over Hebrews to Negro, a tweet of a movie poster. Play the clip.
You have to be aware of what you're doing. And you have to be aware that sometimes when you put stuff out, not everybody's going to like it. Some people are conscious, some people are not. I can tell he's not conscious. He doesn't really care what's going on. But us, I know that the game that we used to love and we promote, it brings people together. And it hurts me sometimes when we have to sit up here to talk about stuff that divides the game. Now we got to answer for what this idiot has done. I stand for equality of all people. I've always been like that. Don't matter what religion, no matter where you're from. I can say shalom, salam alaikum, ni hao, say bon, because that's how I was raised. So I don't really want to sit up here and answer questions for what he's done.
I think the NBA dropped the ball.
In what way?
I think he should have been suspended. I think Adam should have suspended him. First of all, Adam's Jewish. You can't take my $40 million and insult my religion. If you're going to insult me, you have the right, but I have the right to say, no, You're not going to take my $40 million and insult my religion. I think the NBA, they made a mistake. We have suspended people and fined people who have made homophobic slurs, and that was the right thing to do. I think if you insult the black community, you should be suspended or fined heavily, depending. I saw they did the same thing to the kid in Minnesota this year when he made the gay slur. I think you should get suspended or fined. I think him acknowledging the Alex Jones thing should have happened with that too, because that dude's crazy. And I can't believe that we ain't talking about that. We're talking about this idiot.
So here's the biblical truth that Charles isn't connected to. The man said, you can't take my $40 million and insult my religion. And this is just a fundamental biblical truth. None of this is ours. None of it. Not the money, not the cameras filming me, not the chairs, the stools we sit on, not this laptop, not this cell phone, not this pen. None of it, the microphone, none of it is ours. It's all God's. And so this whole thing of, oh, you can't take a Jewish man's money and insult his religion. Well, Charles, go ahead. Can we also say people can insult Christianity and Jesus Christ and take every dime that they want and no one objects? And again, y'all head on over to my Wikipedia page and start writing me up again. And oh my God, Jason Whitlock is defending Kyrie Irving and Hebrews to Negroes. And now he's critical and he's saying that Jesus Christ and Jewish people's money. Again, write it all up, however you want to distort and do whatever. But I'm standing on fundamental truth. And so this whole mentality that it's this person or that person's money and you can't say X, Y, and Z and earn this NBA money, man, who's God? Who is God? Is it Adam Silver? Who is it? Is it Jewish people? Are they God? I know Jesus was a Jew, but my understanding is like Jews and Gentiles, that all got erased. We're all just image bearers. We're all just God's children. Kyrie's not on a different level than Adam Silver. But they want to talk about Kyrie's grown up and he's changed and now we can love him because he's one game away from the NBA Finals and he's played so well during this playoff series. And it's like, no, y'all need to grow up. Y'all need to grow a pair and y'all need to tell the people, your paymasters and puppet masters, when they tell you to say, hey, we got to have this person attacked, you need to say, hey, man, that's not my lane. I don't know nothing about that. This is America. The man's got free speech. If he don't want to take the vaccine, if he wants to retweet a movie, I'm here to talk about rebounds, assists, and points in NBA playoffs. That's what I'm qualified to talk about. Grow up and man up. That's what we'll be doing this weekend right here in Nashville. We'll be growing up and manning up here in Nashville. Go to fearlessarmyrollcall.com. Come join us in Nashville. We're going to have a weekend-long discussion about being a man. And being a man basically means standing on these biblical truths, come hell or high water, and answering to God, not the chosen, not TV executives, not Adam Silver. You don't have to do all this backpedaling and remaking of history if you stand on these biblical truths. I'm going to bring Steve Kim in. We'll talk a little bit about Kyrie Irving. We'll talk a little bit about Negro League's baseball stats being added to Major League Baseball records. Before I do that, though, I got my good friend here, Balance of Nature, helps me make sure that I get all the fruits and vegetables I need in my diet it can be difficult for those of us that are busy. The average person doesn't eat half of the recommended servings they need of fruits and vegetables in a day. Inflation increases the price of inflation has increased the price of staying healthy and getting all the fruits and vegetables you need. That's why Balance of Nature provides an on-the-go solution, and they haven't raised their prices in 10 years. Balance of Nature's blend of 31 fruits and vegetables come in easy-to-swallow capsules and will give your body so much of the nourishment it needs. Imagine trying to eat 31 different kinds of produce in a single day. You don't have to worry about it. You can just take Balance of Nature. When you go to balanceofnature.com, you'll get 35% off plus $10 off any additional sets with your first order as a preferred customer by using my discount code FEARLESS. That's limited to 5 sets, but you'll save a ton of money while getting the fruits and vegetables you need in your diet. Go to balanceofnature.com and use the promo code FEARLESS for 35% off. That's balanceofnature.com. Steve Kim, Korean Cosell, back. There are voices and songs crying out for men to live up to their biblical responsibilities, to correct a corrupt and broken culture. We can no longer afford to ignore the tug on the heart that all good men hear and feel. We have lost our way, and we know it. You can see it in the eyes and actions of scared, frustrated, and confused children. Free speech, it's under attack. The meritocracy, it's been scrapped in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Identity politics separates us by color. As we step further and further away from our identity in Christ, Satan steals the innocence of children. Join me.
We need courage, not perfection.
John Rich.
You're the benefactor of the fact that the founding fathers recognized that's where your inalienable rights come from.
Glenn Beck.
You are the leaders of freedom and liberty in the world.
Mark Robinson.
Ain't but two genders.
Pastor E.W. Jackson.
But I owe my identity not to my race. I owe my identity to the Lord Jesus Christ.
And members of the Fearless Army in Nashville on Saturday, June 1st for Roll Call 2.0. Visit fearlessarmyrollcall.com to reserve your spot at the Men's Summit that will restore your faith and your resolve to fight. All right, welcome back. I want to bring Steve Kim, the Korean Cosell, into this conversation. Steve, everybody's backpedaling on Kyrie Irving. Now he's great. And, he's one game away from the NBA Finals. And so now, he's all grown up. And I'm arguing, what was the matter with the old Kyrie? I had no problem with him not taking the vaccine. I had no problem with him retweeting some movie he liked. This is revisionist history that Kyrie has changed when the real argument should be these broadcasters need to change and stick to a lane that they're qualified for. Talking about vaccines, they're not qualified, and talking about movies, they're not qualified. Your thoughts?
Well, it goes to show you that history is written by the winners. And as of right now, that seems to be Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks. What I find interesting about this whole thing is that most of the criticisms would be okay if it was just strictly about basketball. If it was only about the play on the field and his behavior, as a member of the Brooklyn Nets at that point, and whatever you want to perceive as his irresponsibility, which I don't think is a real fair word, or some of the decisions that he made. But I think you're right that this came down to a point of not about the way he behaved as an athlete, but the personal decisions that he had as an individual and some of his personal beliefs. And it was really interesting that because he didn't step on the party lines in lockstep with everybody else in terms of the vaccine, politically, religiously, culturally, he was then looked upon as some sort of iconoclast. I find it hilarious. I actually think it'd be great now because I think he's been proven to be correct in a lot of instances about the vaccine. I would love for him to get an endorsement deal with ivermectin and call it Kyvermectin, Kyrie-vectin, or something like that. That would be the ultimate, like, in-your-face slam dunk right there to everybody. And I just think it's really interesting that Stephen A. Smith is now taking the brunt of this because he made this incredibly personal. He tried to gatekeep another black man, and he tried to basically wag the finger at him. And now he's backtracking as if somehow he did this out of because it's the community and we're the elders. No, it's not. He made you look like a fool. But he really also, in my view, along with Stephen A. Smith, aside other people, truly put the mirror on a lot of people about their own personal beliefs. I mean, think about Cuomo, that guy that's on that television station now who made a big story about having COVID, locking himself downstairs in his home. They made a big story about it on CNN, and he would literally push the vaccine on millions of his viewers every night, his audience on CNN. And now he's admitting, you know what, this COVID thing's not really working out so great because his vaccine's kind of making me feel like I have the heebie-jeebies. And now I'm actually maybe using ivermectin. It just goes to show you that they want you to be just an athlete, but they'll allow you to be a spokesperson if you have the approved messaging.
This has been tough for me because I like Charles Barkley personally, and I like him as a broadcaster. But to me, these television networks have all these guys out over their skis, and part of it is making George Floyd and the whole Trayvon Martin and all this other stuff talking points. That kind of led people, well, we got to talk about social justice. Now we got to talk about vaccines. Now we got to talk about movies that we haven't watched, we're not going to watch, we don't know anything about. All these things that they're really just not qualified to talk about. They've been put in harm's way. I think some of them need to authentically just man up and just say, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm going to talk about basketball and things that I know about. Overeating, picking up groupies, drinking to excess, smoking weed. Talk about that stuff. Don't talk about serious stuff because they don't know what they don't know, and they're doing it at the behest of Big Pharma and these TV executives.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of go down the list there, as it relates to individuals like George Floyd, there's a reason why NBA players move out to white gated private communities. They don't want to be around George Floyd's. That is the reality. And in fact, if their daughters or sisters dated George Floyd's, they'd be horrified and would do their best to try to break that relationship. It's an inconvenient truth, but it's the truth nonetheless. As it relates to old Charles Barkley, one of my personal favorites, and I'm saddened like everyone else that inside the NBA will soon be shuttered and a thing of the past, it looks like. But one thing that we have found out was the more he spoke about things other than basketball, he wasn't nearly as intelligent and as enlightening as we thought he was. Really, the more he spoke about other things beyond basketball, you really found out how uneducated and how ignorant he was. And specifically about what is going on with the feelings towards Donald Trump within his own community. A lot of men, I've been noticing this a lot, and again, it just could be my algorithm. There seems to be a lot more black males that are right around the same age as Charles or younger. They're not as nearly as liberal and as Democrat as it was once thought of, let's say 10 years ago. I'm seeing more and more channels pop up with gentlemen that look much more like Charles Barkley than me. Let's just put it that way. And the more I would hear Charles talk about certain subjects, we play clips on this show, I really said to myself, you know, he's a really fun, colorful jock. But that's all he is. He's a fun, colorful, but really not that intelligent jock. And I know he's going to be upset at that someone's going to say that about him. But when I hear him discuss certain issues beyond post play and 3-point shooting percentages, guess what? He doesn't seem to be all that interesting or that intelligent, at least to these ears.
You know who's had this right the entire time? And we demonize the guy, but he's had it right the entire time. Michael Jordan.
Yes.
He did his best for years and years and years hey, I'm a basketball player. I'm not this. I'm not. And the media ripped and shredded the guy, but he was right all along.
What Michael Jordan has shown is that silence is indeed golden. And he is Fort Knox. I mean, Jason, this is a guy that really does not tweet. I don't even know if he has his own personal Twitter account. I don't think he has his own Instagram account. I know he's not on TikTok. And you rarely see him talk about anything at all, ever. I mean, once in a while, he'll do an interview. I don't know if he even does a daily or yearly meetups with Ahmad Rashad anymore. That probably hasn't taken place for at least 15 years. And anytime I see Michael Jordan talking, it's archival footage on YouTube or a documentary like The Last Dance. But it's amazing that the less he says, the smarter he sounds. Because we have to be fair about this. If you are a public figure, Jason, like you are, no matter what you say, right, there's always going to be a gotcha moment. So if you give an opinion on something, you're either going to be right or you're going to be wrong. Nobody has a gray area. It's either black or white. So you could say something from yesterday's show or a show from a month ago that's going to be really proven to be incorrect. It's going to be a bad look. Guess what? You could be on Bad Takes Exposed in 3 months, and that clip could go viral. Jordan, I don't know if he did this on purpose, but by not saying anything and taking what I would call a silently neutral stance on almost everything, that's one thing that's insulated him, is because of his profile. There's scarcity in his words, which creates value to whatever he says. Okay? That is lost on a lot of guys. You don't have to comment about everything. But number two, if you never give an opinion on anything, guess what? You could never be proven to be incorrect in retrospect.
Steve, I'm going to move on to a different topic. Major League Baseball has decided to include Negro League stats into Major League Baseball stats. This has set off a little bit of discussion over social media, although pretty much everybody knows what side they're supposed to take, and they're, towing the line, and this is great, this is progress, and I'm just not so sure. I was someone that, I worked in Kansas City from 1994 until 2010. I was there at the inception of the Negro Leagues Museum. I was a supporter financially and with my time to the Negro Leagues Museum. I was friends with Buck O'Neil and campaigned and agreed with the movement of more Negro Leagues players should be in pro baseball's Hall of Fame. Total support of that. I completely disagree with including Negro League stats with Major League Baseball stats. They weren't the same league. The record keeping wasn't at that level. And this is some more virtue signaling and just this whole fixing of history is what people do when they don't want to confront the future and the present. And that's what I see going on here. And I also think, I think we have a graphic here. What a lot of this is about. Ty Cobb was known as arguably the greatest hitter in baseball history, had the greatest batting average in great baseball history. Now that distinction goes to Josh Gibson. And it's silly. I think, according to stats, Josh Gibson had 2,500 recorded at-bats in the Negro Leagues. Ty Cobb had 11,500 at-bats in Major League Baseball. The record keeping in the Negro Leagues was sloppy at best. And just the facts are the Negro Leagues aren't Major League Baseball. How could they be the same stats? This is like, oh, well, Herschel Walker ran for 1,000 yards in the USFL. Let's attribute that to his performance in the NFL. It's just not true. It's another gimmick. It's another mistake. But I can't say I'm surprised. This is the way of the world now.
Yeah, I didn't even know this was a thing. And by the way, I think Herschel Walker actually had a 2,000-yard season in one of his years that he played for the New Jersey Generals when they were owned by Donald J. Trump. Here's the interesting thing. You know what a pet peeve of mine is, Jason, during the offseason when I watch a lot of TV and I try to do some research? I hate it, for instance, when they show the Nebraska of the 90s national championship years and they show the greatest hits and it's on the Big Ten network. And I say to myself, wait a minute, hold on. What in the name of Dr. Tom Osborne and Lawrence Phillips are you doing? They were in the Big 12. That should be on the Big 12 network. I don't care what conference Nebraska's in right now. Those national titles, 3 out of 4 years, from 94 to 97, they were not Big Ten. And that little thing just drilled. And they do that all the time with all of these teams that have switched conferences. Here's the issue, Jason. I actually think this, in a way, and I don't think this is what was intended, it takes away from the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leagues had really high caliber ball players because that's not what we're saying. Guys like Cool Papa Bell, Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Jackie Robinson, Willie Mays, Larry Doby. They actually won a lot of MVP awards when the leagues were integrated, when the Major League Baseball specifically. But my view is this, and this is an unfortunate calamity that took place. Once you started to put players from the Grays and the Elites and those teams into the National and American League, you know what industry it destroyed? Negro League Baseball. That integration actually took away a great black industry that was owned by blacks, worked by blacks, the face were all blacks. They owned that league. They owned that domain, and it went away in the name of integration, where I think, to me, you want to continue to shine a spotlight on how good the Negro Leagues were, how important it was for that segment of America, how successful it was, entrepreneurship, ownership, which are such key buzzwords. Yet all of that went away and thousands of jobs were lost and stature and standing within the community. And now you're just saying, well, we just want to be as good as the white league. Think about the message. I'm just telling you, Louis Farrakhan talks about this a lot. Now, there's a lot of things I disagree with him. There are certain things I'm actually in lockstep. Why is it that our standards are always related to the white man or to the white league or to the white industry? I think this is another case of doing that without even knowing it.
Many American black people have the mindset of the white man's ice is colder.
Yes.
Period. End of story. And so if the messaging behind this is crystal clear, that was an inferior league. You're not really great. You didn't really accomplish anything until it's recognized by white people. Until you get the pat on the head from white institutions, nothing you've done matters. And it's comical because leftists, black leftists, they're so pro-black and they're so proud of being black, but their entire existence is based around getting the approval of white people. And so they melt, oh, God, I won a Grammy. And that's better than any BET or Source Award. That's better than any Soul Train Award. It's, oh, I won a Grammy. And, oh, God, the Oscars are so white. And that's so much better than an NAACP award. We spend our entire life trying to get the approval of white people. And that's what this is. And so it'll be celebrated. And it's a way of the only people that I see celebrating this. And as soon as I see a white guy saying, yeah, this is great, this is long overdue, the first thing I go, okay, this dude's racist. And he's looking for a way to prove that he's not racist. And so I think this is great. But anybody, look, man, I think the Negro Leagues had 8 teams during most of Josh Gibson's career. I think Major League Baseball had 16 teams. Again, just look at the at-bats disparity. And if you go read previous articles about the record keeping of Negro League stats, a lot of it is guesswork. And so now, and here's the other thing, Steve. We've all decided that Ty Cobb is a horrible, despicable human being. He's racist. And Josh Gibson is better than Ty Cobb. I don't know anything about Josh Gibson. And I can't sit here today and say for 100% he's a better person than Ty Cobb. And I say that in all sincerity because, I don't look at, for all, again, I don't know, but it's just like, Josh Gibson could have been Ray Caruth for all I know. Who the hell, he could have been O.J. Simpson. Who the heck knows? And so this whole debate about revisionist history, well, this person's bad and this person's good, we don't know. God's going to have to do the judging as it relates to that. And so there are all these people that say, Ty Cobb, the batting champion, this is good. He's no longer the batting champion because he was racist. He's dead. And so whatever he was. It's in the past. It has no impact today. He was a great batter in the Major League Baseball. Josh Gibson was a great batter in the Negro Leagues. The whole thing just frustrates me. And anyway, go ahead.
Jason, I really wish the great Buck O'Neil would be alive today because I wonder how he would feel about it. To me, when he would make these appearances on the Roy Firestone show, I always thought he was the historian. I thought he was a great American, had a great spirit towards him. And I wonder if he feels as though this actually overshadows the legacy of the Negro Leagues. He told a great story one time. He's in Kansas City. He's at the stadium for the Royals, and he's talking to somebody. And Bo Jackson's taking batting practice, and there's a crack of the bat, and Buck O'Neil goes, "Oh, excuse me," because I got to go out there. So he looks out, and he goes out to the batting cage, and he comes back. He goes, "Excuse me, I've only heard that sound 3 times in my life, from Babe Ruth, Josh Gibson, and now Bo Jackson." I mean, the guy could tell a story, but these are the things that was legendary about that league. That it was self-contained, it was self-sufficient, it provided hope, I think, in a lot of ways. It provided an industry. And so I have a question. So now I do believe they have that, like you said, the Hall of Fame. So now do they want Cooperstown to overcome, or basically overtake that Hall of Fame and make it an all into one so there's no separate history whatsoever? And then it becomes a point of, well, how much room do they get? Do they get half the room? Do they get 1/3 of the room? Do they have to go out there and negotiate how many square footage the likes of Satchel Paige are going to get? I didn't understand why this was such a big thing. The Negro Leagues are respected. There's no doubt about it. But you're right. Somehow not making Ty Cobb the all-time leader or batting leader, it's not going to take away. Look, we know this. Jefferson Davis was the general of the Confederate Army. No matter what we do, no matter what statues we tear down or vandalize, in modern day society is not going to take away that history. The history happened. It is what it is, and it should be here to stay, or better or worse.
Steve, here's another ugly truth about the Negro Leagues Museum, having spent all that time in Kansas City and supporting it. Look, black people don't support the Negro Leagues Museum.
Nope.
The overwhelming majority of the money comes from the white community, overwhelming majority of visitors to the Negro Leagues Museum. And it's not just hey, there's more white people than black people thing. It was a struggle to get black people to support, visit the Negro Leagues Museum. I was involved in many events, at least a half dozen, that would all transpire at the Negro Leagues Museum because I wanted to shine a spotlight on the area, the museum, the whole 18th and Vine area. And so, I can hear people, criticizing me and ripping me, but, I put my money and time where my mouth is on this stuff. So, have at it. Steve, I got one more topic. I'm going to shock everybody by praising Shedeur Sanders here. He got a haircut, and he said it's about business. Let's play the clip of Shedeur Sanders, Colorado quarterback, talking about his haircut.
I like it, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
See what I did.
Tell the people why you chop it off, bro.
Come on, man. It's a business here, man. I handle business, stand on business, everything business, man.
If you put
I'm going to tell you why I like it. He wore cornrows or braided up hair last year, and this is Shedeur and Deion saying, hey, man, that ain't the look for a franchise quarterback. I'm not sending Cam Newton off to the NFL. I'm going to send a leader of men with a normal haircut who's not going to be spending all of his extra free time worrying about who's going to braid his hair and all this other fashion stuff. I think it's a very smart decision by Shedeur. I applaud he and Deion for making the decision.
Jason, it kind of reminds me, and I think you may have been on set when this happened. Remember when Michael Vick told Colin Kaepernick, you know what, babe? But brother man, why don't you get a short haircut? Why don't you tighten it up a little bit? Get a little bit more of a fade, and people got all up on Michael Vick. I do like it, though. Look, I'm an old guy. I don't try to act like I'm young. I don't try to relate to the younger generation because, quite frankly, I don't care what they really say. I would prefer that my quarterback have as conservative a haircut as possible, as short as possible. I think it's even time to bring back the high top fade, even look like maybe old school, what is it, Big Daddy Kane, Scoop and Scrap Lover, maybe even Cameo. I prefer those haircuts to what I've been seeing recently. I mean, it's so unusual now, Jason, when you look at as many documentaries as I do, old NFL films, old highlight films from the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, how much the haircuts have changed and also how many players back then did not have tattoos. Now when I see a player without any ink, it's eye-opening. It used to be the other way around. So I wonder, though, is Shedeur going to actually have the watch? Is he going to continue that thing where he flaunts the Rolex? Because I think there is a realization, and whether they want to admit it or not, Jason, Shedeur and Colorado are marked men. I'm not saying there's a bounty out for them, but people want to go out there and do well against them. They want to hit them. They want to go out there and assault him a little bit on the football field legally. And I'm just wondering if this is one of the ways to kind of take some of the pressure that they've put on themselves off going into this 2024 season.
Steve, I think this is a sign of growth from Shedeur and Deion. We'll see if they can sustain it. I also think it's tied to, there's been recent news stories about Shiloh Sanders and his altercation deal with the security guard, John Darjean, who was interviewed on this show, who Shiloh, according to John Darjean, according to court documents, damaged, broke his neck, injured him severely, has a $12 million judgment against him. I just think those types of questions about Shiloh bleed over into Shedeur, and Deion and Shedeur are trying to clean things up before he gets to the NFL. And I can't do anything but applaud it. I know people will be shocked to hear that I'm applauding something Deion and Shedeur have done. But when people do things I agree with and think are smart, I don't care who they are. I don't care whether I like them or not. I don't care whether I've criticized them in the past or not. This is just good business. And it's we watched Cam Newton lean into fashion and lean into all these things that have nothing to do with playing quarterback, and it didn't work. He had a nice MVP season, and he got, maybe 60% out of his NFL career of what was on the table for him. He could have been an all-time great. He could have been a Hall of Famer. Instead, he's a guy with a bunch of money whose career ended way too soon, and he'll never be in anyone's Hall of Fame. Shedeur, hats off to you and Deion. Great decision. Thank you, Steve. That was great. I'm going to bring in Josh Mancuso here in a second. Before I do that, talk to you guys about Blaze TV subscriptions with the elections coming up. I'm expecting things to get even crazier than they already are, especially when it comes to freedom of speech and how hypocritical the left is when it comes to it. To them, it's okay to chant from the river to the sea. But you calling our border crisis an invasion, well, that's a crime. We already know that big tech is doing everything in their power to suppress the truth. They even collude with our government to do so. Do I need to remind you about Hunter Biden's laptop? You better believe that getting the truth out to you will be even harder than it is now. That's why here at The Blaze, we saw this coming, and it's exactly why we exist. Blaze TV and Blaze News is a place where I can speak freely with no repercussions, a place where viewers can be a part of the solution and ensure that they can't cut us off from each other. Consider supporting Blaze Media, where our mission is to set fire to the lies the left wants you to believe. Not only will you get this show, but you'll have access to everything else we do here, from our Blaze original series to Steve Baker's incredible investigative work revealing the shocking lies about January 6th and so much more. Go to blazetv.com and subscribe today. And And when you do, be sure to use my promo code FEARLESS to get $20 off your subscription. That's blazetv.com. Use the promo code FEARLESS to get $20 off. Do it today. Josh Mancuso, next.
And it just made me wish that we could get some type of symbol beside our name on social media so we could know which people had maybe IEPs in school or rode the short bus.
I want to be in the Special Olympics.
Because then it would kind of help me understand the thinking of some of these people.
What the hell are you talking about?
If I was Puffy, I would never be, but if I was him, I think he should just take on Ghetto Boys and say, you know, I ain't going out like no sucker. I'm going out like a crazy mother.
Whoa!
Hey. And just take everybody down with him.
If we are to die, then we will die fighting, all as one.
If I'm going down, everybody that participated with me is going down as well.
Welcome back. If you thought Steve Kim was funny, and Steve Kim is pretty funny, our next guest, Josh Mancuso, he makes his living being a funny man, making jokes about college football, making jokes about sports. He built a large brand with he's got this gimmick with college mascots. Let's play, I believe it's let's play the mascot, SOT first, give you a taste of how Josh Mancuso became so popular on Instagram.
Welcome to Tennessee. We need some people to come up with a nickname and mascot. I'll do it. Oh, okay, so are you going to volunteer? Yep. All right, so if we... What? That's it. What's it? Volunteers. That's the name. Maybe we should brainstorm a little longer. Yeah, we need to keep going. Nope, this is the one. Volunteers. You said I could do it. Volunteers? Really? I mean, what are we, a nonprofit? Well, I mean, there is the true story of the 30,000 Tennesseans who volunteered to fight in the Mexican-American War. Boom. What's up now? Okay, yeah, it's a cool story, but I mean, can we go with like the Tennessee soldiers or warriors? No, sir. It's got to be the volunteers. That's it. It just sounds like we serve soup. What's wrong with soup? Volunteers it is. Okay, well, can we at least shorten it to say like Vols? Yeah, okay, Vols is fine. So I guess the mascot then will be like a soldier. I got myself a blue-tick coonhound dog named Smokey. He's gonna do it. The hound dog. Well, don't worry, we'll dress up a guy like Davy Crockett. What? Like Davy Crockett? Are you just making this up as you go? No, he was there. Where? The Mexico thing, amigo. Okay, whatever. Well, I mean, the fight song has got to be about the heroes from that war. Actually, I wrote a song called Rocky Top. We'll sing that. Oh, he wrote a song. What? Our fight song? No, we'll have a real fight song nobody cares about, but people will lose their minds over this one, I promise. Let me see that. Yep. Once I had a girl on Rocky Top, half bear, the other half cat. What kind of redneck is this? Yeah, I don't really know what the words mean. I just drank a bottle of Jack Daniels and wrote some stuff on a napkin. But we're gonna sing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Okay. All right, that does it. I think we're good. Go Vols. Go Big Orange. Okay.
So that's Josh Mancuso. You've probably seen him on Instagram. If you have a favorite college sports team, particularly in the SEC, you already know Josh Mancuso. Josh, welcome to Fearless. How did you come up with it? I'm sure you were just farting around and fell into something, or was this intentional?
Yeah, man, I'm always farting around, and so that it just naturally happened. I started making some videos online, and then I had this idea for a college mascot because my father-in-law was from Auburn, right? He's an Auburn grad, and so I always give him a hard time about Auburn Tigers, but they don't yell "Go Tigers," right? They yell "War Eagle." Right, so I was like, why don't you yell "Go Tigers"? He was like, no, we yell "War Eagle." I said, all right, that don't make any sense. And so I thought it'd be funny if there was like this committee of people that came up with this stuff, all these wild college traditions and mascots. And so I just shot one, man. That was the first one I did, and it went pretty viral. So I feel like I landed on something, so I kept going.
How long have you been at this now?
I mean, I did that first one less than 2 years ago. Yeah, it was like August of 2022.
So. He's in a different lane, but there's a lot of talent here in Tennessee, particularly with the name Josh, because I'm a big fan of Josh Pate as well.
Yeah.
And, look, Clay Travis built a brand off of the SEC football. College football is so passionate here. It's a great content opportunity for guys like yourself and Josh Pate and others.
Yeah. Man, everybody, everybody loves college football, I think.
Yes.
I mean, if you're a real American, you love college football. And so, if you live in the SEC country, then you definitely watch college football. So, yeah, it's just a place for me to be able to kind of be funny and use something that's not super divisive. Everybody can get along with sports and have a good time. And so it's been an easy way to kind of get into the comedy world a little bit, yeah. So
you're a comedian. You do stand-up as well?
I do some stand-up, yeah.
Is that based around college athletics as well? Or?
Some of it is, yeah. Like I go in and I talk about, depending on where I'm at, right? I'll rag on Alabama quite a bit or other schools during my stand-up. So it's about, half of it's probably college football mascot related, and the other half is just stuff about like being a girl dad, and other stuff like that.
So I'm sure Ball State's probably a big part of your brand as well. I'm sure. Yeah.
What is?
Ball State.
Ball State, yeah. Oh, the Cardinals.
Yes.
Yeah, the Cardinals, big time. I mean, that's I've not done a Ball State mascot video, but it's on my list for sure. At least they're the Cardinals with an S, not like Stanford, it's just the Cardinal.
Yeah.
Just one.
I used to get confused by that. And sometimes I'd see Louisville, their helmet, and I say, is that Ball State playing it? Then I'd see Lamar Jackson and go, no, we don't have anybody that good. Anyway, Josh, I just discovered Josh authentically because we have a mutual friend, Charlie Courts, and Charlie is the CEO or running Rated Red, and Charlie showed me your show, the Josh Mancuso show, featured you and Cooper Manning. Yeah. And I got to be honest, I thought it was amazing, and I just Cooper Manning. Obviously, you're a comedian, professional comedian. Obviously, Cooper has comedic instincts. But watching that video and watching just how natural Cooper was, and it brought out the best in him, he brought out the best in you. That was amazing. I want to play this clip, just 60 seconds of the Josh Mancuso show. This was the pilot episode with Cooper Manning. Play the clip.
On the count of 3, don't even think about it. Just name your favorite animal. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Arctic puffin. Favorite movie to watch on a rainy day?
The Notebook. Something's happening.
And I don't like it.
Favorite 80s sitcom?
Mr. Belvedere.
Second favorite sitcom?
Charles in Charge. Favorite character on The Sopranos?
Paulie Walnuts. Favorite Manning brother? Eli.
Yeah. If you could trade places with one person, who would it be?
Olivia Rodrigo.
Are we becoming best friends?
Yep.
Do you want to go eat beignets with me downtown New Orleans?
Yep.
Everybody's looking at us.
They're probably like, who's that guy hanging out with Eli Manning?
You think you look like Eli Manning?
So, how much of that was scripted? How much of that was just Eli or Cooper just going off the top of his head?
I know. It was 75% of it was just winging it off the top of our heads, and then about 25% was probably scripted. Like, I would say things like, "Hey, what if I say this and then you say that?" And he's like, "All right," and then we would do it. But most of it was just like me throwing, stuff at him and him responding. And I told him ahead of time, I was like, "I'm going to roast you," and he was like, "Great, I can't wait. I'm going to roast you back." He out roasted me. Like in the episode, if you watch, he's the real comedian, man. He dethroned me there in my own episode of my own show.
The thing about Cooper, obviously he's in a unique position. 3 brothers, 2 are in the NFL, 2 have won Super Bowls, both will probably end up in the Hall of Fame. And then he's the little brother who had his career cut short by injuries, and I think he played wide receiver. He didn't even play quarterback.
Yeah.
But he seems so self-aware, so confident, so comfortable with being the other Manning brother. He just seemed incredibly likable on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. He embraces being that third Manning that people sometimes forget about. But I think he's been super successful as a business person, and of course he's funny. He has his own show on Fox Sports, he was dynamite, man. Like he's comfortable in New Orleans. We walked around Bourbon Street and that whole area, and he showed me around and was very cool. A few people recognized him, but not a lot. And in fact, more people recognize me than him because, you know.
Are you telling? I don't believe that.
With me being, you know,
I don't believe
more
that.
famous.
I don't believe it.
You know, I wouldn't believe it either. Yeah. But he was great, man. Yeah.
I gotta say, for not knowing you that long, you get Cooper Manning on your show, and then you turn around and I guess you got a new episode coming out, and Kirk Herbstreit, you're getting some big name guests. What are you doing?
They all want to hang out with Josh.
Name, image, and likeness deals with these guys? What's going on?
Yeah, I got an NIL deal going. I've got, I do have an NIL deal with Renaissance Bank. Okay, they're sponsoring the show, so they've been very cool for that. But yeah, man, I think just being in the college football world, it's like these guys, they kind of already knew who I was. So I had, you know, I can't just call up, you know, Brad Pitt and be like, you want to be the next guy on my show? He'd be like, who are you? How'd you get my number? Right? It's these guys are in the mix of the sports world. So it's been not, you know, pretty cool getting to know them. Kirk was like the nicest guy ever, and I'm convinced I'm going to be on College Game Day with him.
Really?
They don't know that yet, but I'm going to make that happen. Yeah.
I don't think Pat McAfee's going to let that happen. You would be competition for Pat McAfee. I don't think he's going to let that happen.
Look, I can wear sleeveless shirts and yell loudly as well. You know, we could.
You could. Let's play a clip of Josh and Kirk Herbstreit. I have not seen this one.
One of the big things going on right now is NIL.
I like the idea of it, but it's name, image, and likeness, and it's become pay for play. So once you go down the road, I think it's going to be tough to stop it.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
You know, I think players' rights, it's just a different era right now.
Yeah, it just feels like people are just doing things because they're getting paid, you know? It's just kind of sad.
You know, players have opportunities, they have marketing agents. To me, I have no problem if we're going to pay players off their name, image, and likeness, they create marketing opportunities. I think that's the real thing.
And you can't beat the real thing.
You know, I think the deeper we go into this, the more we're realizing that there aren't as many players making this massive amount of money. It's more about, I think, just a select few. But there's definitely opportunities there.
Strawberry? I mean, I certainly understand why players want to get paid. You know, I mean, everybody likes to get paid for their hard work.
But I think if it's bribing players to play, that's not good. But if it's off name, image, and likeness, their actual brand, then I think that. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, just, you know, you want a chicken tender?
I think I'm all right. I love Raising Cane's.
I'm just trying to get my own NIL deal, Kirk. You know?
I tell you, you're going to extreme measures. You look like a NASCAR driver.
So the first, Kirk did a good job there.
He was good. He was trying to keep up. He didn't know what was coming either. I didn't tell him hardly anything of what we were going to do.
And Kirk, I'm saying this affectionately, but not affectionately. Well, you know what? I'm actually on my show, so I can say no homo. Kirk looks like he's lost some weight. He looked good there.
He looked good, yeah. I mean, first Cooper was on my show. He out comedy to me, and now Kirk's out, you know, handsome.
Well, that's not hard. That's not hard.
That's true. Kirk is, he's a good-looking fella, and he knows his stuff. You know?
I hope Kirk sees that. Well, I got to be careful because Kirk works for ESPN, so I don't want people at ESPN to know that Kirk actually watches the show. But I will. It looks he's ready for this upcoming football season. Yeah. He must be in a contract negotiation. I mean, is he trying to make more money than Stephen A. Smith? Who do you think's more valuable, he or Stephen A. Smith to ESPN? You know,
more valuable to ESPN?
More valuable.
Kirk Herbstreit.
Stephen A. Smith is going to hear that and be very offended.
I can't wait. I hope he goes crazy on me.
Stephen A. is in a contract drive right now.
Is he?
Yeah, because he's mad about how much money Herbstreit makes, how much money Aikman makes, how much money Pat Mac. He's very upset. The white guys are getting paid over at ESPN, and Stephen A. is having to scrape by on $13 million a year.
That's it? That is awful.
He's just scraping by.
I'm mad about it, honestly. I think.
Wait till he hears about how much you're making from, you know.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm very wealthy. I'm rolling in the dough, lots of it. And Stephen, I bet he would like my show. Maybe he would be a guest. Do you think he would be?
I think absolutely. You know how you get on Stephen A. Smith? Take shots at me.
Take shots at you, and that'll get me out.
He's very critical of me. Stephen A. will probably reach out to you. Stephen A. would probably do your show. He'd love to. He'll know nothing about college football.
No.
He'll lie and say that he was a college basketball player at Winston-Salem State. Do you know who Winston-Salem State's mascot is?
No, I didn't know there was a Winston-Salem State.
Yeah, Stephen A. doesn't know either.
Did he go to school there?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
He says he played basketball there, but there's no proof. And I called that out, exposed that.
Really?
That there's no proof that he actually played basketball there, and he's.
If that's the case, then I played basketball there as well.
Where did you? Are you a UT? Did you go to UT?
I did not go. I'm a UT fan. I went to a little school called Emory and Henry College in Virginia. It's like 1,000 people. Yeah, you can't even say it right. It's Emory and Henry. Two guys. I don't even know who they are. John Emory and Patrick Henry. You know Patrick Henry, the Give Me a Liberty or Give Me a Death?
Yeah.
Those two guys, they named the school after them. I don't know why.
Why did you go there?
I went there to try to play football. I know that's shocking. I know, given my
What
physique.
position?
Wide receiver, yeah. So Cooper and I are we're very similar in that way, you know.
I bet you ran about a 4.85 40. That's
4.8, is that?
4.85.
4.85. That was 4.83, I think. Back then, they didn't. It was Division III. They didn't offer athletic scholarships. I went there and paid money to go there. Redshirted my freshman year, and then got hurt. Never saw the field.
You know, I just racially profiled you, and you didn't complain.
No.
If you were black, I would have said you ran a 4.75, and you.
Right. No. That's right. Yeah. I mean, white guys are slower. That's just a fact. It's okay.
Be careful. That can get you canceled. Josh, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope will you come back during college football season?
I would love to. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
Do a lot of studying on Ball State.
Okay.
Come up with a whole Ball State Cardinals gimmick, and we'd love to have you back on.
Got it. I'm on. Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Josh. That's Josh Mancuso. He's funny. I recommend his show, particularly the Cooper Mania. I've seen the whole Cooper Mania. I've just saw the taste of the Kirk Herbstreit. That looks good as well. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Tennessee Harmony next. You know how you're going to spend the first day of Pride Month? I know how I'm going to spend it. Honoring God, my Lord and Savior, fellowshipping with other men who are concerned about the direction of this country. I'm going to spend it right here in Nashville, Tennessee, leading Roll Call 2.0 alongside country music star John Rich. John and I have partnered on this annual event to inspire men to live up to their biblical responsibility of leadership. John's going to sing, I'm going to speak, so is Blaze founder Glenn Beck. We've invited basketball coaches, football players, singers, successful entrepreneurs, North Carolina Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, Pastor E.W. Jackson, author Vince Everett Ellison, and contributors of the Fearless Army to speak and fellowship with us. You can join us in Nashville June 1, or you can celebrate Pride Month. It's your choice. To join us, visit fearlessarmyrollcall.com and reserve your spot. All right, welcome back. Time for a little Tennessee Harmony. Anthony Walker and Bobby Harrington rejoining us here for Tennessee Harmony. No Virgil Walker, round of applause. I may actually get some, kind words said about me today without Virgil being here. Anthony, Bobby, the dynamic duo back together again. Anthony, start us out with a prayer.
Father God, we thank you for today. We thank you for your blessings. Bless us as we discuss such serious matters about the end times. And we pray, Father, that those who receive it will be blessed. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right, guys. Bobby and Anthony have combined on a book about what the Bible says about end times. It's an ebook. It's free. They also have a podcast on the topic. Obviously, it's a topic that I think many of us are fascinated by, particularly right now, because many of us feel like this has got to be the end of times, and probably we don't know what we're talking about, but that's why we have Bobby and Anthony. They're experts. So, guys, what are you trying to accomplish in the book and with the podcast?
You know, most people right now, the majority of people feel like we are living in the end times. That's Christians, that's even those who may not be so strong in their faith. So since there's an interest in it, we decided to, and Bobby, you know, he's been working on this for some time now, but now is a good time to release some information that's helpful to help those understand what the end times really means and if we are in fact living in those times.
Are we?
I actually believe we're on the edge of the end times. But what we do in the book is we talk about things, whether we're on the end times or not. Every one of us is going to experience end times because we're all going to die.
Yes, that's accurate.
And at the core of what the Bible teaches is that all of us are going to die. All of us are going to be raised up to stand before God for a final judgment of our lives. And then we'll go to hell. Or if we trusted and followed Jesus, we're going to go to the new heaven and new earth. So there's not a topic that's more relevant for every one of us than this topic.
So you said that you believe we are on the cusp of end times. What does that mean? Because some people can be like, well, according to God's watch, maybe that's another 1,000 years, you know, because, or, you know, so for a layman, what are you trying to convey? Is that 100 years? Is that 50 years?
Yeah.
Is it?
So let me just say this. Everybody tends to think they're living in the last times when you go back through Christian history. But let me give you 3 things that cause me to believe we're heading into that. The first one is Israel. I think there's things happening with Israel that are described in, for example, the book of Zechariah, chapters 12 through 14. The second is Jesus said in Matthew 24:14 that the gospel of the kingdom will go to all the ethnic groups in the world and then the end will come. So that's Matthew 24:14. And people who are experts in foreign missions tell us that by 2025 or 2030, in that range, people from every ethnic tribe will pretty much have been reached. And then the third thing that I would say is...
Reached with the gospel.
Reached with the gospel.
Gotcha.
And then the third thing I would say is that 2 Thessalonians 2 describes a massive apostasy, turning away, and that is definitely happening in the West. And what happens in the West tends to go to all the other countries. So I'd say those are 3 reasons that make me think that.
For a layman, clarify apostasies.
Apostasy is a turning away from Christianity. So in the West, we're abandoning our Judeo-Christian roots.
Yeah. You'll be here next week, Bob. So what Bob says things going on in Israel. Clarify, elaborate on that.
So the tensions, the war, when he talks about Matthew 24, Jesus talks about there would be some wars and rumors of wars and all of these kinds of things taking place. And right now, Israel has been, but is really a hotbed of that right now. And so that's an indication. And there are those, you spoke about being, a layman. Technically, when Jesus rose from the dead, and he went back up to heaven, that was the beginning of, okay, time is ticking. So we've always kind of been under that. But what Bobby's speaking to and why I believe most people right now are on the edge is, hey, it's looking like things are kind of winding either up or winding down, depending on your view of the end times.
And so the 3 things you point to, Bob, what's going on in Israel, people turning away from Christ, and why am I just forgot the last?
The gospel going to every ethnic group.
So obviously, what's going on in Israel that's unprecedented, obviously, and then but some people say, man, people have been turning away from Christ since the garden or forever, but
I think that's right. What I was. Let me just describe the West. So Europe, North and South America, as nations, they were founded on a Judeo-Christian belief system. Europe has really turned away. Canada, where I'm from, has really turned away, and it's happening here in the U.S. now and South America. So I personally believe that it's likely that it's setting the stage for the false prophet and the Antichrist that I see the Bible describing. Now, Jason, let me, if I can, I just want to say this. We're talking about an area where we call it a third bucket issue. Not all Christians agree. So in our
third bucket issue.
Third bucket. So first bucket is what's essential for salvation. Second bucket, what's important for faithfulness. And third bucket is good, honest people genuinely disagree with each other. Good, honest Christians. So a lot of this stuff is third bucket issue. If I could just say that the essentials are first bucket, second coming, resurrection of the dead, final judgment, consignment to hell, or to the new heaven and new earth. And so far in our podcast and in the ebook, we emphasize those topics, and then we're moving on to talk about Israel, the Antichrist, things like that.
So when people hear this, there could be, you could interpret it two ways. Let's say they buy your argument and believe it. You'll be like, well, thank God. You know what? I'm ready. This is so crazy. Just bring it on. Mm-hmm. And then there are other people that will hear and say, oh, what can we do to prevent it? What can we do to make people turn towards Christ? And so I could see some people be like, okay, good, I'm glad. And I'm just gonna do me for the rest of this time here. And then there's people that's like, well, I gotta take action. What is the advice for believers in this time that we're in? What should we be doing?
A good book to read, in addition to what we have written, but a biblical book, 1 Thessalonians. Paul, when he first preached in Thessalonica, he talked about the second coming of Christ, and he talked a little bit about the end times. What that caused people to believe was, well, I think he's coming next week. And so many people at that time were thinking, oh, the end of the world is happening. It'll happen next week. And so they were quitting work. They were basically checking out because, hey, it's happening. And so Paul has to write them to say, okay, hold on, guys. This is an emphasis to live out what Christ has called us to live. So to obey the commands of Christ, to make disciples, to live and to spread the gospel to everyone. Let's keep doing that. And that helps us to be ready for whenever Christ comes. If it's tomorrow, if it's 200 years from now, you'll be ready. For those who are not ready, now is the time, not tomorrow or next week. Now is the time to obey Christ. God has a design for his creation, and we got to get to know him. We got to understand the problem that we have with sin, the reason that Jesus first came. We talk about the second coming, but his first coming was to bring us back to God, to help us to deal with this sin issue, to remit our sins, put us in relationship with God, so we'll be ready for his second coming. So I agree with you. There's a couple of different approaches that people may look. Those who are obedient to Christ, faithful to him, they're ready. It was the prayer of early Christians, come Lord Jesus, let's do it, okay? But then those who are not ready, you got a couple of different angles for them as well. There are some that are, wow, I need to get ready. And then there are some who do not believe and say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna live my life the way I want to. And God has a place prepared for them as well.
The reason why in my gut I buy what you guys are talking about is because there's so many people. Take a Bill Maher who's built a brand on being an atheist. But I believe if you read between the lines of what he's doing and actually saying, is like he's coming into the full understanding of like, oh, this secular world is nasty. It's far worse than a Christian world. And that's making him, he won't ever admit it, but that's making him realize like, oh man, what these Christians have been talking about, it's actually true. Mm-hmm. And then he still rejects it. Mm-hmm. That's the turning away that I see, is that people are looking at this world go straight to hell, and they're like, oh my God, this is a wicked place. And what we're doing doesn't work, but they're still in such defiance, they won't accept the obvious answer. that, oh man, we better get right with God. We better turn to Christ because we've turned away, and look at this mess we've created.
I look at it, it's either going to be, let's be the faithful remnant, come on and join the faithful remnant, or let's pray, and we do pray, let's pray for revival. So it's either revival or remnant. Those are our two options.
My thought or analysis on people coming into an understanding of like that the rejection of Christ has led to this chaos. Is that part of any of this, what the Bible says about end times?
Let me tell you two things that are really strong with me, Jason. The first one is in 2 Thessalonians, when it describes this apostasy, it says this: people refuse to love the truth and so be saved. So the first thing is that we have to be candid about our culture. We are not a culture that is really concerned about what's true. We're more concerned about fitting in the narrative to the left, or the narrative to, it's like the narrative is, well, what about what's true? And then the second thing is we have lost any sense of the holiness of God and the rightful fear of God. Those are just absent, not only from our culture, but from many churches today.
Yeah, I certainly think there is no fear of God, because anybody that can look at what's going on with children and what we're exposing children to, it's, and I don't mean to turn this political, but it was the first name that just popped to my head. Candace Owens has gone on this tirade about pornography. And I've listened to people talk about how accessible pornography is. And when you're 57, and Bob, what are you, 58? But those of us 50 and older, we certainly remember, like, man, it was difficult to see porn, to have, and now we've made it so available to young people. And that is where, again, I just say, wow, this is a level, we're handing kids pornography and no one wants to do anything to stop it.
Right.
And we're acting like that to me is just like total defiance of God, total defiance of common sense, total defiance of truth. We know this is harmful, but we're making it more accessible and easier for kids.
That's why we just need to call people to repent, to turn to Jesus, ask God for forgiveness of our sins, and pledge ourselves to live lives faithful to Him, to be that faithful remnant while we pray for revival. And if there is no revival, to be faithful with what's coming our way.
You know, Jason, the things that really helps us as well as we consider this time, when children are being born and the whole scenario around abortion and all of that, when children enter the dynamic, it brings a sobering thought to us, the world that we live in and the world we're leaving. But then another angle is when we die or when our loved ones die. It is a sobering moment to sit in a funeral or to get the call, that such and such, I went to school with them. And that's one thing that makes people think, wow, this life stuff is real and we've got to consider it.
So your podcast is available everywhere.
Yes.
The book, where do they go to get it?
Renew.org/end times.
And is that on renew.org? Is that where the podcast is as well?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. We'll cue up some harmony, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Up so divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall. God, let your light shine down. What we need more than anything now, harmony. Let's make a simple vow. Let's come together now. Harmony. Put all your weapons down. Love one another now. To wake up, choose love, my sister, my brother. See through the lies they tell us, 'cause together we're so much stronger.
up your eyes